Welcome to the Climb Podcast, where we are diving into taboo topics and redefining the rules for women of color leaders. Get ready as we share the stories and amplify the voices of extraordinary women of color, from navigating workplace challenges to celebrating triumphs. On this podcast, we've got you covered. So buckle up and join us as we embark on today's empowering journey. Welcome to the Climb Podcast, where we empower women of color in the pursuit of leadership and managerial roles. I'm your host, Felicia Smith, the founder of The Climb, a 501c3 organization committed to increasing the number of women of color in leadership roles. Today, and every day on the Climb Podcast, we break down topics that have been taboo, mystified, or really not talked about. And we break it down with our guests. And today we have an amazing guest back. If you were listening to season 1, Ama, that inclusion lady, was there, and we talked about diversity without inclusion. It was an amazing conversation. And most importantly, what most of you don't know before I even get into her bio, is that Ama is an amazing advisor to the Climb in the organization. She's one of the people that when I call, every time I have my book open and she's giving me like notes and she's giving me encouragement. And so I so enjoy her every time we're together. So I'm super excited for her to be back. Welcome back, Ama, to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Felicia. That just made my heart warm.
Listen, it really is. It's so amazing. You know, the way we got connected. First of all, we went to Tuskegee together, but the way we got connected was just reconnecting or connecting on social media, because I was like, hey, I remember her face and she is bad. Like, I need to have her as a part of this panel. But as we had conversations, I asked her, like, would you be on my advisory board? And so the amazing thing about the advisory board for the Climb is I get an opportunity to meet with them quarterly, and I just tell them about the organization. And Ama's always full of so much good wisdom, and I always walk away with a list of things that really helps me to be focused. So that's her intro. That's her intro to her bio. I'm going to actually read a portion of her bio. I know she's modest, but I'm like, I'm giving her all of the jewels. Okay. So Ama is also known as That Inclusion Lady, is the CEO of Inclusion Enterprises. She's a speaker, a trainer, certified EEOC investigator, and a talented senior level consultant with 15 years of progressive leadership experience in human resources, strategic planning, program development, employee engagement, and culture change management experience. Ama works with global and domestic Fortune 500 companies, mid-sized companies, nonprofits, and universities. Excuse me. Ama is a workplace culture subject matter expert, and that is so true, guys. If you follow Ama on any platform, you realize immediately that she's an expert in her field. She's passionate about talent development through cultural competence and giving and receiving feedback. I love your bio. Listen, I'm
thank
a fan.
you.
I'm a
Oh
fan.
man, thank you. And when you said that 14, I was like, yes, let's claim that Fortune 14, okay? I am here for it.
That wasn't a 40 slip, that was a God slip thing. We
That
gon'
was
we
a
gon' we
God
gonna go with
slip.
that. So today we are covering the topic of the power of unplugging. And I'm gonna tell you guys, before the podcast, me and Amma had a long conversation. And so I'm so excited to talk to her about unplugging, because it's something, I'm gonna be honest, I struggle with. But Amma was so brave this year, and she actually, shared on her social media platforms about how she was unplugging from social media. And so Amma, tell us a little bit about how you came to the place where you said, I'm gonna unplug.
So it was really a culmination, Felicia. Not to make this political, but I was speaking at a conference during the election. And so, however way you feel about the election, for me, I had to compartmentalize a lot.
Mhm.
And, just hearing different perspectives on social media, I had noticed a change in like my mental health, my mood, how I felt. I was constantly plugging in to see what's going to happen. And for me, that created worry and anxiety about my field, my business. Um, And because of that, I was like, ooh, something has to change because I'm starting to put too much stock into my social media presence. Now, here's a side note. Um, Last year, probably mid-year, my Instagram account was hacked.
Really?
Yes, hacked, and he tried to extort money from me.
What?
And so I had to, like, he took it over, locked me out. If you go look it up, it's a whole nother person's name. And I had to start from scratch again. I'm talking
Are
about
you
tens
kidding
of
me?
thousands, tens and tens of thousands of followers. Had to start over from scratch. So I was mad. I had to lick my wounds, all this other stuff. And I am very, very connected to God, what I feel my purpose is, trying to be obedient. And so I was like, forget social media at that point. But I don't like doing things twice, and that's a lesson I have to learn. So I felt led to go back at it again. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did. But with all the election stuff, with everything happening with DEI, with everything happening just within the industry, um, I felt led, like through prayer, to just completely disconnect from social media. And how I knew I needed to do it was because I started asking all these questions. How am I to do this? Like, this is the time I need to be on social media the most. This is what I need to talk about. This is what I need to build my business. What about my business? What about losing followers? Like, I started thinking all of these things. And I tell you, Felicia, I heard just as clear as day. Oh, you think social media is what's giving you success? Like that.
Mm.
And I was like, you
Seal,
know?
seal your lips at that point.
Filled the lips. And that's when I decided to completely disconnect from social media. And it was hard. It was really hard.
I can only imagine. So
Oh,
we talked about this a little bit, and you just touched on it is, and this is not, listen, whoever's listening, whatever your beliefs or whatever is what it is. But
absolutely.
me and Ama talked about being connected to a source, right? And how that source kind of grounds you. And as I hear your story, I just hear going back to that source. So that, I mean, that's amazing to me. So when you first started, like let's say day one. Like what because you are very active and your videos
Yes.
were so like how did you like day one when you got that itch to record? How did you stay off of social media for those 30 days?
Yeah. So I took everything off my phone first.
Okay,
I
okay.
took all the apps off, all that other stuff. Now, what this, I don't know why I should have done this too. I should have like discontinued notifications to my email because I didn't mention this part. While I was on my social media cleanse, it
Mhm.
was also my 1 year anniversary of launching my company. Yeah. The biggest podcast I've ever done of my life for a SHRM, Society of Human Resource
I
Management.
saw that too.
Uh,
Congratulations.
Thank
I was like,
you.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. But it also dropped while I was on my cleanse. I was like, oh God, you're really trying the girl. You're trying me. Right? Texting me, you know? And then some other stuff I did from last year, like that content finally started coming out. So I was getting all these emails mentioned here, mentioned there, mentioned here. And of course, you want to see what people are saying. You want to see how it's doing. But if I'm honest with myself, all of that was seeking validation. And seeking validation and pride is what got my butt hacked in the first place.
Mm,
Right. And
yeah.
so that's when I just had to get everything off my phone and find other things to do. So I started writing. Um, I allow myself to have some free time a little bit, which I typically don't allow myself to do. So I don't watch TV like hardly ever, but I'll allow myself to watch something.
Mhm.
I would try to go to bed a little earlier, but I would channel that energy in something else that was more productive
That's
after
awesome.
removing everything from my phone, access from my computer. And then if I had a thought, like I would put it, because I have a newsletter, I would put it in
Mhm.
my newsletter, or I use that time to create. So I'm like, how can these thoughts help someone else learn a concept? So it had turned into creativity.
That's awesome. So what
Mhm.
is something that you learned about yourself that you didn't know, like in those 30 days?
That's such a good question. It's funny, Felicia, because I typically don't talk about things until I get it all figured out, right?
Mhm.
And I don't have this figured out yet. And when I got back, like I had lost some followers, especially on Instagram. I lost maybe like 100 followers. And I was like, see,
Really? Are do people really like unfollow people that quickly?
I guess I like they weren't
Wow.
getting content. You fall out of the algorithm, like, and the algorithm is not friendly to my content right now. So you got to remember who owns Instagram. So,
For
um,
sure.
So yeah, like I had noticed that and I was just like, oh, again, I just have to trust. But
Hmm.
some of the things I learned about myself is my work style even more. Like I noticed, how you have work rhythms? I noticed what my work rhythm is. Like, and my brain really starts to fire on all cylinders in the afternoon. And
Hmm.
from the afternoon to probably like 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, I can go nonstop. But I can't because I have a
Wow.
little one who wakes up very early, right? So
Yes.
I had to like reprogram myself, but it was nice to know, like, okay, this is why you start to procrastinate around this time because this is not in your work rhythm. And I would say
Mm.
another thing I learned, like here's the other thing I filled it in with, like a Bible study for myself. So I really started studying the Gospels.
Hmm.
And that is when I got to know myself even more. And I'm still in it because in those moments I had doubt, I was able to reference something back in
That's
the Bible
awesome.
and journal about it. And so that really helped me start to discover, like, girl, you doubt a whole lot. Like,
Wow.
why are you so worried? Like you really worry, you be worrying, right? And I had to like journal about it, and I didn't even realize that about myself because I was always distracted by social media, responding to people, likes, thinking of content, making a video. I was always doing something in the name of
Yeah.
content, and I had to just stay still. I really felt like something was like, "Girl, sit
Mm. That
down."
is oh, I love that. That's so awesome. I didn't share with you actually that I'm on doing a fast now too. I'm doing one with my church. And one of the things I learned was I would go to bed with like my earpods in my ear because I if I watch TV, it's like old episodes of like Amen or something random.
Love it.
But I would go to sleep with it in my ear, right? And I never noticed that I stopped dreaming. And so in our fast, I can't watch any TV. And so I've been going to sleep and I've been dreaming. And I'm like, oh,
Amazing.
it is. And now I'm learning is that that stuff was just still working my brain, right? And so I didn't get the opportunity to like fully relax in a place where I would actually dream. And I thought that that was like,
Ooh, that's powerful.
it isn't that like it was bizarre to me. I was like, huh, all this time I wasn't dreaming because I always had something in my ear like just playing. For me it was something a relaxing like comedy to just get all the stress of the day away, but it was still stopping my natural rhythms. So that was very interesting.
Oh, that's really interesting. Out of all of it, the hardest for me was YouTube. Like
What's that?
I it was hard not to post because I have so many opinions and girl, it's so much go on in here. And with everything that was happening, I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to, but now I see why God zipped my mouth shut. Like, no, you're gonna sit this one out because I had a whole lot to say. But but I also noticed I love watching videos on YouTube, whether it's different sermons, whether it's different podcasts, because I like to study how people interview and how they practice curiosity and ask these
Mm,
questions. But because of that, I think it was taking some of my originality away. And even when I would read the word or read something else, like my interpretation, I started hearing someone else's voice and someone else's interpretation instead
that's
of my
good.
own.
Good.
And so it really allowed me to center back into Ama,
Hmm. So
whatever that means.
I know, no, and I think it helps you to even clarify more of what that is, or recreate. Like that's the other piece. Recreate the version of yourself that you're the most happy about, and of course, God's the most pleased
Exactly.
about. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what would you tell somebody who was like, girl, you crazy? Like I can't like what would be the first steps you would tell someone to take to even begin to think about cleansing? Because to your point, we're in such a heightened time. Someone used our ombudsman used a good term. She said the barometric pressure in the building has decreased, right? And everyone's in such a very tense place. And often when we are in that place, we do go to like trying to feed on more things when it could be that we just need to step away. So, how do people get to a more heightened understanding of when they need to just stop and unplug?
So I'm going to give it in two different perspectives, okay? So if it was somebody who is a believer and has the same faith as I do,
Hmm.
I'm going to say, what is preventing you
Hmm.
from wanting to step back? Like,
Yeah.
why do you feel I'm crazy?
Hmm.
And because I felt I was too at first. So I want to hear that. And at the end of the day, I've had to learn, especially over the last month, you either believe in God's word or you don't. You either believe his promise to you or you don't. And I know, like a shadow of a doubt, I am walking in my purpose and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in this phase of life. So if I truly believe that, then you're just going to take what rolls with it, because very similar to like when Jesus was in the boat swimming with them, I mean, sleeping, and they got to go across the sea. It's like, I told you we were going to the other side. Like, I'm right here with you. Like, chill
Mhm.
out, right?
Yeah.
And so if you know that, if you have that faith, if you know that, then chill out. And you just have to know, like, something gonna happen with the wind. It's a storm. The wind's gonna calm down. The seas are gonna chill, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
I love that.
And so that's what I would say to someone who believes as I do. But I also have friends and family that don't believe as I do, and
Hmm.
so I have to go at it from a more logical perspective,
Hmm.
because faith isn't always logical.
Yeah.
And so I would ask them again, what is preventing them from thinking they can take a break? Number one, what has them even considering the word break? So
Hmm.
let's explore that, because it was put on you. You're thinking of this for a reason.
Hmm.
And then I would start asking more questions like, how do you feel when you are scrolling through social media? How many hours a day are you
Hmm.
spending ingesting this information? Do
Hmm.
you notice any differences in yourself after you see certain
That's
things,
good.
right? At
That's
different
good.
times of the day. And at its bare minimum, this is a mental health, self-care approach to
Mhm.
life, knowing when you have to step back for X amount of days. And
Mhm.
so I would take it from that angle if it's someone who doesn't believe as I believe, because I truly feel like, I mean, it's so many studies out there that support how much social media impacts your mental health.
Yeah.
And so, at what point do you take control over your time, or are
Hmm.
you going to let social media control you? Like, it's really that simple.
That's good.
Um, so that's how I would approach the conversation. And I wouldn't tell someone who's so accustomed to it, I wouldn't tell them to do 30 days, right? I would be like, just try a week. Just
Mhm.
try 3 days where you absolutely don't log in, and just take a temperature of how you feel. Let's start there. What's happening
Mhm.
in your body? And then what do you do with that extra time if you even notice you have the extra time?
Mhm.
And then we can kind of grow from there. But I can tell you, Felicia, it's one of the best things that I've done.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it does. You brought up something good. We often talk about knowing what's happening in our body and taking stock of what's going on. For someone who has no idea what that means, what does that look like of taking
yeah.
stock of your body?
Yes. So the body holds score. Great book, by the way. And your body is going to first alert you on how you feel, because that is the brain telling you, okay, like your amygdala is about to take over. Somehow, some way you feel like there's a threat, you feel unsafe, whether it's psychologically unsafe or physically unsafe. So typically your body does certain things, whether it's your heart starts beating fast, you might feel heavy in a certain part of your body, you might start to get a headache. Your body temperature might change. Like for me, I literally get hot,
Mhm.
or I feel like my chest starts to burn. Like if I start getting mad or stressed out, I'll start ruminating on specific things, like really, like it's on loop in my mind. And
Mhm.
so all of those are examples of how your body is responding in that moment. Sometimes we're so accustomed to our body being at this heightened amygdala attack that we don't
Mhm.
realize that that's not normal.
Mhm.
And we don't notice the difference from when we go back to the prefrontal cortex, which is more of the rational side. So yeah, some people can say take deep breaths. It'll readjust in your parasympathetic nerve, which is that all the way the nerve that goes all down your back and up your skull, and that controls your emotions. But I'll take it even further. Yes, deep breaths are great, but that's more reactive instead of proactive. And so notice those things in your body, how you're breathing, what your mindset is, what you're thinking, what are your temples doing? Like some people feel like the throbbing in their temples. Some people don't stop long enough to just check in with my breathing, right? Is it shallow? Am I starting to breathe faster? Is my heart starting to beat a little? Like all of those things is literally your body telling you, uh-oh, something's going on. There's a shift. And the question is, how do you respond to that? So did I answer your question?
Listen, did
Okay.
you?
Okay.
Did you? For a second, I was like, did now I know we was in the business house together, but did you slide over to the pre-med
Girl,
program?
study this stuff so much because I'm just like, what is happening in my body? And I have a temper and I be ready to pop off, Felicia, but I can't be inclusive popping off on people. I can't be that inclusion lady and telling them what they mamas think, right? Like I can't do that. So I had to start really paying attention to what is happening with me and when do I feel like it's about to go down? Like when am I going to feel like I'm about to go off, get mad? That's when I need to pause or step away or take a deep breath or do something to manage myself. And so I really had to start studying the brain and what is happening in the brain to be like, oh, okay, so that happens, then this happens, and that's what's happening in my chest, my heart, my emotions. Oh, and this is what I can do to prevent it so I'm not just popping off on everybody. So it's been really helpful for me and my mental health and therapy, being a better mom, because I can tell my son, like, okay, mommy's getting angry right now, or you're really starting to annoy mommy. So I need a moment. Like, give mommy a couple of moments. And now he understands that, right? Instead of me just blowing up
Unloading.
on him. Um,
Yes,
so
unloading.
that's why I had to go into the science girl because it's I had to try to figure out what is wrong with me
What
sometimes.
was the book that you referenced? Say the book again that you said was great to read.
Oh, the body hold score or the body keep score.
Body
That's
Keeps Score.
one.
Okay.
And another one is, oh my gosh, what is it? By Dr. Anita. I'm gonna find it.
We got time.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it.
But I will
That's
say
the
while
other
you're
one.
looking, while you're looking for it, that's one of the powers also, and particularly when you're thinking about unplugging, to your point, if you're a person who's more scientific, there are so many good like books out there that talks about it, talks about different aspects. I'll say one that I've been reading just to think about, and of course it was right here by this desk and then it disappeared. Oh, it's right here. Um, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life. And of course, it's not going to show you the
Ooh.
thing, but it just talks about. I was telling Amma earlier, I'm trying to focus on more sleeping, and it talks about your circadian rhythms and how it works and all those pieces. But yes, all these books, like if we're gonna take over the world, if we're gonna be like amazing leaders, we gotta be ready, right? And we have to know, particularly what Amma just said, is super important, right? Because in the workplace. If we take it there, you have to be able to understand what's going on in your body to even to be able to control those emotions, to be able to present yourself in a way, to your point, that you don't just get mad and just cuss everybody out. Because then that'd be a problem, right?
Oh,
So,
that'd be a huge Okay, so the name of the book is The Garden Within by Dr. Anita Phillips. It's
okay.
fantastic.
I
And it
love
talks
Dr.
about,
Phillips too. I
oh,
love
love
her.
her. The
Is that
book is
her new book she
phenomenal.
just wrote?
About a year and a half ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's her newest one.
Yeah.
But it's talking about like how emotion is not a bad thing. So here's the thing, and this might sound contradictory, but y'all know how I was like, I get mad, I want to pop off, and all these other things. Well, I was in denial because I don't yell. And I've always been taught, don't let them see you sweat. And so it's not that I was going crazy in the workplace and cussing people out and going off and being loud and boisterous, but I wasn't being kind. I was being curt. I wasn't being personable. I wasn't being relatable. I was really like cutting you down to size essentially when I'm mad. And so that does not reflect my brand and who I want to be and who I feel like God needs me to be in the earth. And so I had to really start doing some inner work to see like what's happening with me and is there something I can do to either prevent it from happening or manage and redirect when I do feel it happening. Because so long I was like, oh, I'm not mad. I don't have I don't have emotions. Like it's hard to get to me, but actually you are getting to me and it's just festering inside. So
Wow.
all of that is what contributed to, okay, I feel it heightening again. I need to take a break. And I also don't go on social media on Sundays. Like that, I do that every week to
Hmm.
give myself a break, but that 30 days it was not
It
easy.
was so if you had to leave the audience, number one, I don't know because you done left everything on the table, but I'm
Okay.
sure you got three things. I say three, but whatever they are, with things that you think that every woman of color should be considering about unplugging, whether it's your social media journey or it's just in general about unplugging.
Like it's necessary.
Hmm.
I need women, specifically Black women.
Hmm.
I need you to realize it's necessary. I
Yeah.
need you to realize that the body keeps score
Hmm.
and what we have experienced, okay? in the last year, in some regards, can be traumatic. And
Hmm.
here's why. Because we saw misogynoir at its heightened phase.
Hmm.
Misogynoir being the intersection of race and sexism, right?
Hmm.
Regardless of how you voted, there was still history being made.
Yeah.
The first Black woman, the first Asian woman running for office, and we saw her being discredited. We saw her being discounted. We saw her um, being demeaned and disrespected. And all of us watching that, I want to say almost all of us, could probably reflect to a time that has happened to us, where
Yeah.
our expertise has been discredited, where
Yeah.
we have been demeaned, where we have been second guessed. And so
Hmm.
that triggers something within us. And to see it day after day, we saw it for 75 straight
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
so we have to find a way to unplug and check on us. The question is not if we should do it, it's how we should do it.
That's good.
So
That's
that's number one.
good.
What's your how? How are you gonna unplug and pour back into you? Because oftentimes we're pouring from an empty cup. So
Hmm.
that's number one. How are you gonna do it? Because it's necessary.
Hmm.
Number two, while you're doing it, what are you going to be doing to
Mm.
refill that cup? I can't tell you, Felicia, how many times I talk to friends, including myself, and I'm like, what are our hobbies? Because oftentimes our hobbies are taking care of our family.
I know. Yes.
Laying on the couch and watching Netflix, and
I know
with
that's
the
right.
last like 3 hours we have to ourselves in a whole week is not a hobby. Like, what do we do to bring ourselves true joy?
Yeah.
It's a great time to start discovering that, because we all have 24 hours in a day. So how are
Mm.
we kind of going to redirect that time to bring
That's
ourselves
good.
joy?
That's
And
good.
then the third thing I was going to say, and back to what we were talking about, is what is going to be your anchor? Whatever that is, whatever it is, what is going to be your anchor? You can determine that because now you understand, you've paid attention to yourself. You know when it's coming up. Now, what are you going to anchor yourself to say, okay, I need to go back to that foundation
Mhm.
to recalibrate what's going on with me. So those would be my three things. Not if, but how. What are you going to do with your time during?
Mhm.
And what are you going to anchor yourself to?
Alma, you just gave us the starter kit to unplugging.
You
I
so
love
funny. I
that.
feel like it sounds so philosophical, but it's
It
really
doesn't. It's very practical to me. To
so
me, now I'm gonna
necessary.
tell you, I'm a little philosophical too, but it's practical to me. It's something to your point. If you're not a person who is very, spiritual, you can still. It just makes sense, right? That's the starter kit. Like if I'm thinking about it, those three. That's amazing. This has been an awesome conversation. Number one, I probably need to do number two too. I used to have a hobby. Now I don't even, I was telling my husband, I used to do the cricket. I used to like make stuff. Man, that
Yeah.
thing's been in the closet for like 2 years. So
Uh-huh. Yeah, like think about it. Like we'll be like, "Oh, girl, I love to travel. I love to." Okay, but those are like the
oh,
big moments, right? Like
yes.
what are you doing regularly to fill yourself up with joy? And it's so off because we work so hard. It's hard to like reflect on that, and some of us even feel bad for it in different ways. But like strong Black woman is so played out. Like we don't want that no more.
I know. Let's
We
let's hang
want
up the capes.
whole, fulfilled. We,
Yeah.
we want to just be authentically happy with ourselves.
Yeah.
And that takes work. And sometimes it takes courage to say, okay, it's time for me to unplug because I feel so connected to this thing all the time. And when I am connected, I'm now suffering from comparison. I'm now suffering from envy. I'm now suffering from anger. I'm suffering for everything that is not a fruit of the spirit and not what I want to be a part of my brand. And so you can do something about it.
That is awesome. Oh, I love this conversation. I always learn. I'm telling y'all, every time I talk to you, I learn so much stuff. It is so refreshing. I am not blowing smoke. I really do feel that way. tell the audience how they can find you in all the places so we can get your 100 followers back of people who.
Girl, right? I'm like, forget the people. They weren't riding for me. And you weren't with me when I was shooting in the
Exactly.
gym. No, I'm playing
A
tough.
couple days now you unfollow. I'm like, wow, boy, people are fickle for real.
Girl, so fickle. It was probably because, DEI wasn't cool anymore, but it's fine.
Oh,
But I still have such a supportive community, and so I
yeah.
can't focus on the people. And that's another thing I had to learn. Like, you better focus on what you got, not what you think you
Yes.
lost,
Focus
right?
on who stayed and not left. I forgot
Yes.
who that. Yes.
Yes, that gratitude is so important. But you can find me at That Inclusion Lady on most things. Ama Aygapong is my name, and if you want to look me up on my website, it's inclusionenterprises.org.
Mhm.
I specialize in all things inclusive leadership, but I specifically focus on how to give and receive feedback because that is just so important when we talk about inclusion in the workplace. Does everyone have the opportunity to receive actionable feedback, own their performance, and contribute to the success of the company? So that's how you find me, inclusionenterprises.org, at That Inclusion Lady on all things. And
That is so important. Sorry, I know this is the ending, but yeah, we have to talk about feedback at some point because that's one of the things I think a lot of
yes.
people struggle with. And people, people will lie because they just don't know what to do. So that's like so important.
hmm That's
Oh,
the real equity to me. Like, that's the real equity to me. Like, because
yes.
if you think about it, feedback allows you to work on your performance. To work on your performance allows you to be outstanding. To be outstanding allows you to get paid more. Also allows you to be on succession. Also allows you to get promoted. Like, all of these things really starts with how are you giving and receiving feedback? So that's accountability. So people can own their performance, be proud of it, and truly contribute. Because at the end of the day, we really all just want to win. It does not matter your race, your creed, your color, your sexual orientation. We want to win and contribute our best to this world. And how are we removing barriers to be able to do that? It starts with feedback. So,
Love it, love it, love it, love it. I look forward to us talking again. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been amazing. I hope when you walk away from this, you got the starter kit for unplugging and realize how important it is that we take time for ourselves and that we take time to find something to do something that we enjoy. That's what I'm taking away. I have to get back to something that I just enjoy doing.
oh, I love that. Start dreaming again, people.
I
And know that
know.
you can dream,
Yes.
literally and figuratively.
Yes. So thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure that you're following us on all the social media platforms at Join the Climb One on YouTube. And until next time, keep striving, but also learn to unplug. Have a good evening. Thanks for tuning into the Climb Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on wherever you listen to podcasts. For updates and behind the scenes content, make sure you're following us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Join the Climb. Until next time, keep climbing and keep thriving, sis. See you next episode.